All right. So it's been a long time since Grace and I have done one of these, probably too long. But if you don't remember us, I'm Bree that runs SoCal.Epilepsy, and this is Grace that runs epilepsy.living. I know a lot of people have made pages that look like yours now. And then we are here with Laura, and I am so sorry I'm blanking on your name. Thanks to my epilepsy brain.
Oh, and Chris.
Chris, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Thanks, my epilepsy brain. They're here with UCB, and we're going to jump into how we know them, how Grace knows them, and what they do for our industry. And we're going to let them take over really quickly. Here you go.
Great. Well, thanks for having us, y'all. Super excited to be here. I'll do a quick intro and I'll toss it over to you, Laura. Chris Protos. I am a director of special projects at UCB, and we get to work on amazing initiatives like Under the Lights and some other great things we'll hopefully talk about today.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And I'm Laura Falcon. It's nice to see everybody. I am the patient advocacy lead for UCB. So I work with all of our national advocacy groups and have been excited to be involved with the project also, the Under the Lights project. It's been really, really amazing to be a part of all of it and to meet Miles. And it was what connected us to Grace. So that was awesome too, to be able to make
Yeah.
that connection. So thank you.
If you don't know what Under the Lights is, why are you even following my page, by the way? But I'm just kidding. Go to the link in my bio. You can watch it. The short film about it is out right now, and we are going to get a full-length film. So get with the community, okay? And Grace, how did you guys meet there?
So I got to meet them because Miles was like, "Oh, I need extras for my film." And I was like, "Do I look like I could be in the background?" And he was like, "Yes." And then my mom and I did I can't even remember, 3-day trip. We flew from
I think
Baltimore
so.
to California, and that was awesome. I got to meet Miles, I got to meet Chris, I got to meet Laura, I got to meet a lot of other people from the epilepsy community were there. It was incredible just how many people I met who came together for this, and we're so excited to see this, you know, becoming what it's becoming because we do not have anything like this behind
No.
us. We have kind of the opposite, really, in the epilepsy community. We don't have positive media, we have negative media. We have horror movies and jokes about it, and, you know, movies without flashing light warnings and things like that, as opposed to anything positive. So to see so many
Or
people,
authentic, I guess you
or
can.
authentic,
Yeah.
exactly. So to see so many people just out there, and excited to be a part of something that I really hope changes the way people view epilepsy, and especially the stigma that goes along with it.
I cried. We'll just put it that way. Like, I don't think I've shown anybody that hasn't cried about the movie yet. So
The short film,
Yeah.
not the
The
short,
short
yeah,
film. Yeah.
we don't know what the movie looks like yet.
Yeah, and a funny story about that, y'all, is when we showed it to our team, we had a room of close to 400 people, and the lights went down, and people were like, "Why are there tissue boxes like spread across this auditorium? Like, what are we doing here?"
Well,
And then I tell you what, like by the end of that short, it's like 9 minutes long or 10 minutes long. Like there was not a dry eye in the house. Yeah, it really does pull at your emotional heartstrings, whether you're connected to somebody living with epilepsy or not. I think that's one of the beauties of this piece of work, this art, right? Is that it's a great story first and foremost. And it tells this story that is going to move you no matter whether you're connected to epilepsy or not.
yeah, it's very
Mhm.
emotional. It is like there's like usually one line, and if not everyone has seen it, I guarantee I'm not going to ruin it for you. There's one line in that movie that gets
Mhm.
everybody. And I've gotten hundreds of messages like when he said blah blah blah. I'm like, I know, I know. So it's like
Mhm.
it's a tough one to watch, but it's amazing. It's an amazing movie. It gives me goosebumps, and it makes me cry seriously every single time I watch it.
Now I see like the beginning part of it, and I'm like, I get goosebumps. I'm like, no.
I know, not one for that time of the month. I can tell you that right now. It'll destroy you. Oh my gosh. Like,
Well, I always tell people if you don't cry a little or feel something, then you must be dead inside. Like as a human being, you just have to
Mhm.
relate to one portion of it, and that's so true about the fact that he can develop it so fast. I think that's what's incredible is it's 9 or 10 minutes of watching something and you feel it that deeply. So
Mhm.
I think that's what's amazing. But yeah, it
Mhm.
is. I do find if people don't know that they should not have their phone alerts on or their email bleeping at them or other distractions, then maybe you won't get it. But if you really are watching and listening, then yeah,
Yeah.
it gets you every time.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but it's a tough one in a good way because it's not this whole like people, breakdancing to like to seizures now that people do now. And I'm like, here we go, but it's actually what happens. And Pierce, who's in it, doesn't have epilepsy, but Grace, you told me he followed around neurologists, right?
Oh, yeah, he did so much research
Mhm.
for his part. He followed around neurologists, I believe patients as well. Don't quote, I mean, you could, I'm saying it, but don't quote me on that.
Don't.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do know that he gave his all to be as authentic as possible in that role.
Mhm.
And I think that's why he was able to play it so well.
And I mean, Miles does have epilepsy, so he was able to,
Yeah.
tweak it,
Mhm.
but it's still like he did his job because everyone in the epilepsy community is watching it like, okay, go and see if you can do us well. And it's like, okay, you win. Like, you got us.
It's a good way. He portrays it very well without the, I quote, flopping like a fish, that a lot of
Mhm.
TV shows do whenever there's a seizure. It's they try to actually show the seizure, and nobody can recreate a tonic-clonic seizure. You can't just do it.
Because they're random. You can't do it. And so when people do it, then we go to The Exorcist. Then they make it look like that. It
Yeah.
doesn't look good. So it's like,
Yeah, I agree.
so.
And another thing I really liked mentioning Miles having epilepsy and all the people on the set who had epilepsy is there were people, you know, on set. There was a medic on set. So if anything happened, someone was there. I did not feel vulnerable at all being on set. It
And
was
he was just
incredible.
looking for a lifeguard for, I'm assuming, a water scene. I don't know what it is, but he was looking for someone to be with the people in the pool or wherever
Mhm.
he was. So he made sure we were included. I wasn't, I'm too tattooed, sorry guys, to be in that movie, but it's like, he made sure everyone was safe. Like, and he actually thought about it and included them into that movie because how
Mhm.
often do we get to do things like that? We're stuck at home a lot of the time. So,
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of what was interesting for me to see that all the people that already knew Miles and supported him and knew what to do, but then there's a lot of people that he didn't know before from the short and that are, the feature film takes a lot of hands on deck. And so the seizure first aid training, I believe that he and the other producers really wanted to have like this
Mhm.
needs to be a part of our set. We need to make sure people are comfortable with it. And it doesn't take very long, right? I mean, you can get seizure
no.
first aid trained pretty quick. So
That's
that
what
was an
drives me
extra.
nuts about it. It
Yeah,
takes
that's
like
what's
10
so
minutes.
great about, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely. And
he
it's
like there's fan art from it. People are like in love with it. It's adorable. Like, I mean, Grace and I
yeah.
met him, gosh, how many years ago now?
That was we met in the beginning of 2020.
Okay, so at least 3.5, 4 years
So
ago.
it was sometime either in 2020 or 2021 that we met with him.
Mhm.
I can't remember.
Yeah, and this is when it was kind of, I wouldn't say a pipe dream, but it wasn't what it is now. Let's put it that way. It was more like a storyboard
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden now to see people that are like, oh my gosh, you know him? Oh my, like it's adorable to see it though. Like I love seeing it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I do, but it's like he's just your average person. He just had a great idea and it
Mhm.
went really, really well. And like there's a lot of little short films and movies trying to pop up now too and stuff because of his. They've kind of taken his initiative and run with it. So we have to correct it, I guess you could say.
Yeah. That's super interesting to me. Excuse me, all. It's super interesting to me that, Miles is now a celebrity, right, within the epilepsy community and beyond. Like, maybe can I turn the tables? Can I like ask y'all a question? Like, what does that mean for you all to have somebody that's now, right, recognized for not just, right, living with epilepsy, but like creating this amazing piece of art and, soon to be famous, right, as this hits theaters? Like, what does that mean for y'all to have somebody like Miles to be representing the community?
I love that he we started talking at the same
We went at the same time. We're like, I love him at the same time,
um
but
but I was gonna say I love that he talks about it so much in such an authentic way. Like one of my favorite things he's ever said, and I've quoted this, my mom has quoted this on Facebook, like it's so accurate, is that living with epilepsy isn't just the seizures. The seizures, he said, like in life is a paragraph or a sentence or something, and seizures are the
Mhm.
punctuation. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
most of living with epilepsy happens around the seizures. It's I need to drive to work. It's I, you know, need someone to be home when I shower. I can't do all of these things. And he's so open and honest about it when so many people, I think, would
Mhm.
try to beat around the bush and be like, I can do anything. It
Yeah.
doesn't stop me, when the reality is we can't. And he's open and honest about that. And I'm
Mhm.
so thankful to him for that because it's so refreshing to hear.
Yeah, and I think he hit it at a target age where just because I have my page, I've noticed, I mean, it's tough at any age to have epilepsy, but like the teenage years when everyone's getting to do things and you cannot do things like get your license, go to prom, like just like that because of your
Mhm.
epilepsy. This is giving that age group more of a voice, I think, and more confidence to talk about it. Like I've seen more and more and more and more teenagers talk about their epilepsy where before it was, oh, I don't want to talk about it.
Middle-aged adult
It's like
women.
that's it. Seriously,
Mhm.
men and teenagers are coming out more because Miles made this huge Miles, obviously, and then there's the teenagers. So it's like he
Yeah.
targeted the right age that we need more
Mhm.
fluff from, I guess you can say. And so it's awesome, like she said, it's amazing to see it because we're always oh, look at oh, we were featured in The Exorcist. That was cool, but not correctly,
Right.
or like some will try to do it in, I guess you could say true crime or something like that. And it's like, it's close, but it's still like, okay, they had an overdose, so it's like
Right.
those are the only two sides of the coin we get. But with
Yeah.
him,
It's like always just a dramatic moment, right? It's a thing that's
mhm,
tossed in for effect,
Hmm.
but it's never the main part of the story.
almost to make things worse or scare people.
Yeah, make things worse or scary or dramatic and like, oh no, it's the medical drama, right? Where somebody's having a tonic-clonic in the ER and the whatever the staff has to run in. It's like the moment. But that's only like one, like you say, Grace, the punctuation mark and the
Yeah.
lived experience of everything. And that's what we've been lucky enough to be connected with the feature length film and seen some of the behind the scenes. We can talk a little about like the prom scene, I think, Grace, that y'all were in. But like I think bigger, I think the magic of this movie is that it takes that sort of epilepsy or at least a seizure as a thing that gets thrown in for dramatic effect. And it's just like the afterthought. And now it's like now the kind of the purpose of the movie, right? There are seizures in the movie, but it's not just about seizures. It's about Sam, the main character, living his life and struggling to fit in and being included in a world that maybe doesn't understand him at all. And so it's really cool to see is that like, okay, it's a movie, it's about epilepsy, but it's not about epilepsy. It's not about seizures. It's about the story, about being inclusive. And that's really awesome to see like that sort of framing, right? Like y'all said, it's going from a horror movie or a scary thing to now, oh, it is a little bit of an afterthought in the grand scheme of the story that's being told in this film.
Right. And it's like
Mhm.
you can see someone that would like in all those like sports movies that they do that someone is like doesn't have money and then they grow up and make the NFL. It's like this kid has, this medical thing, then he grows up or whatever and is able to do things despite the fact that he lived with this. And so it's
Mhm.
finally like the oh well, we're gonna kick it off with this, but you're gonna learn all about everything else that goes on with it, rather
Yeah.
than like, oh, you love this character, but he overdosed. Like
Mhm.
that's like I said, that's pretty much all we get. and Grace
Yeah.
knows, there's some shows that do it okay, but it's still like, is this over yet? Like, I'm bored. This one doesn't have epilepsy. Like, this is definitely an overdose now. It's like, okay, I get it, but
Hmm.
I just, I'm so glad he's gonna pave the way, hopefully, for people to do it in a different light.
And he's
And
doing it in a way that you don't just have to have epilepsy to go and watch the movie and enjoy it. If like everyone has something that makes them feel like they don't fit in to some
Hmm.
capacity, and I feel like everyone will be able to relate to this movie because of that. And so I think it's going to attract more than I'm hoping. I'll say I'm hoping more than just people with epilepsy to go and see this movie and hopefully learn something from the movie
Hmm.
about
and Pierce
people
has
living
its
with epilepsy.
own following already from Disney. Like, that'll just bring that crowd in anyway. So I'm excited about that. Like, my
Hmm.
boyfriend's nieces love him, and they're like, you know who that is? And I'm like, yeah, I do now. Like, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but they're like, can we go see the movie? I'm like, sure. And like, the same thing. They're like, you have what he has in the movie. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Like, but they make the connection. And I'm not upset about
Hmm.
it. I'm like, they're little. They understand though. So, that's one thing. It kind of gives a face to epilepsy too. Like, he's now the epilepsy like character, rather than, unfortunately, we had Cameron Boyce, who did pass away. That's the only other thing we
Yeah.
have huge in the media to kind of give us that
Hmm.
I guess you can say. Other than that, we don't have much. Like Grace was saying,
We don't
it's
really
not
have anything except a couple
much.
medical drama scenes and a couple horror movie scenes.
Mm-hmm. Or like somebody that's famous that passes away from a seizure. That's about the other thing, and it's there for a minute, and then they forget about them until it's their death anniversary again, type of thing.
Yeah.
Was this your guys' first project like this to do? Like this big, I guess we can say.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's the first of its kind in the world for anybody, right? We're just so proud to be part of it, to partner up with Miles and the whole team to make this movie come to life. It's been a learning experience. Like Laura and I just had the best, we call it the best day ever. And it's the day that we let Miles know that he was greenlit for the film. When it was sometime in August, right, in 2023. So we just came up on that 1 year anniversary, and like time has flown, and we still look back at the pictures of that day with like the giant ear to ear grin. I don't know, Laura, what was that day like for you, right, when we told Miles he could greenlight the film?
Yeah, I think the best day ever still is the word. Like I've had a lot of great life moments, but that moment and what you all have already said, like Miles is a good person. Like he's a talented writer, he's a
Hmm.
talented director. He cares about so many people. Like anyone that I've ever met that has met Miles already just can't stop saying nice things about him, right? And I'm like, it feels good to do something that can be so meaningful, hopefully, for somebody who like is deserving, if that makes sense. Like everybody's deserving
Hmm.
of good things, but he is constantly giving. And that was something like the best day ever for us was really cool because we got to go see him and tell him, but then we had this other insight into who he is because we met his parents. And it was just really wonderful and not surprising to hear some other stories from them about like how giving he is and how thoughtful he has always been as a friend, as a small
Hmm.
child, as a young man, whatever it is. So that was very cool. But and I was going to say back to the other point you guys were talking about, it hopefully will be a great film like the short film is. Like the short film is a great piece of work, but not because it's about epilepsy or not because of that aspect. It just is. Like the
Mm-hmm.
acting is really good, the directing is really good, the emotions that are brought in. I think that's, Miles's hope is, I'm not trying to make the best epilepsy film ever. I'm trying to make like the best film ever. And it
Yeah.
happens to be about this and that inclusivity story that and the prom is a rite of passage, getting your driver's license is a rite of passage, all of those kinds of things are something that almost every human can identify with. And so then that brings an audience in already because they're like, oh, that was
Hmm.
me. Like maybe not exactly me, but still me. So I think
Mhm.
that's so amazing.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
had someone in their 30s message me and tell me that they're getting their license at the end of this month, and that's like the most exciting thing ever for them because
Hmm.
they're epilepsy. So it's like, people
Yeah.
can definitely can identify with that. So I don't have mine. There's no way with how up and down mine is, but
Yeah.
it's like I remember losing it. So it's like
Hmm.
I can understand like a 16-year-old kid being like, this is devastating. All my friends are driving, and especially being a guy having to be picked up by everybody.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
kind of emasculating. So,
Yep. Well, no, indeed. And I think that's when we get to talk to folks in the community, whether it's people living with seizures or their loved ones, their family, their friends, like it is, and y'all can, tell me what y'all think too, right? This is just what we've heard is that right, seizures take away so much of your personal freedom. Like some like anthropologists like to use a fancy word called agency, right? It's your ability to make your own decisions in life. And seizures take so much of that away. And like driving is just one more thing that it takes away, right? That ability to kind of do what you wish. And like that always struck or stuck with me about, yeah, losing a driver's license takes just away more of that freedom that seizures have already taken away. And I think that's the part that gets me like with this film is that it's like giving, and y'all have already hit on that a little bit, right? Just it gives back a little folks that power back into their lives to point to this, like, yeah, that's my experience. Like I can't drive, not because I'm less than or something's, wrong with me. It's like, here, just look at this film. I don't have to like explain to it. I can just sort of show you up on screen and you can understand a little bit more. And that's like so powerful. To give that power back to folks in the epilepsy community without having to say, right, to say a word.
It is. I um,
Hmm.
studied education, elementary education, and special education in college, and I did
Hmm.
internships, and I taught a fourth grade class. And I really wanted to do something about epilepsy because I know they'd seen me like picked up by my mom when
Yeah.
I was leaving school at the end of the day. And so I worked with the teacher who I was working with at the time to come up with a lesson. And we included kids who had other medical issues in it too. So they felt
Hmm.
included. It wasn't just about me. But I remember like I showed them pictures of what my EEG looked like and described
Ah,
like a
cool.
thunderstorm in my head and
Yeah.
um pictures of when I was in the hospital and things like that to kind of give them a sense and just like if you see me, if you see me, I'm probably going to be with my mom and that's because of this I can't drive instead of the kids just being like what's wrong with her? Like
Hmm.
why isn't this teacher driving when all the other teachers drive?
Yeah.
And I loved being able to do that and just
Hmm.
kind of explain to the kids, this is what's wrong with me. But like you said, it doesn't make me less than. It's just
Hmm.
what I have going on, just like
Yeah.
this student has XYZ and things like that.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I still have to live at home with my mother because of how severe my epilepsy is. And it's like I
Hmm.
don't want to, like, not like I'm sick of them or anything like that, but it's just like I would love to be on my own already. It'd
Right.
be amazing. And it's like, but it's just so dangerous for me. Like I have at
Hmm.
least one a week right now. And I mean, that's gone down
Hmm.
from what it was insanely. Like Grace can definitely tell you how it was, but it was just like nobody wants to live with their mom still for the rest of their life. That's like you said, a rite of
Yeah.
passage to move the F out, get out of here. So it's like I can be okay with not driving. It's very expensive in California, but it's
Hmm.
still like, but it's, you still have to do everything else. But if you go and take like an Uber or something, that's another thing you have to be responsible of yourself for, because what if you
Yeah.
have a seizure in the car, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like you definitely lose your independence a lot.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
robs you of your independence.
Yeah. No, 100% on that. It's in my line of work, I've gotten to talk to a lot of people in the epilepsy community all over the world. And like a story that sticks with me is we were in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and I don't speak Portuguese, but we had like an interpreter, and like we're like having that person kind of tell us their story. And young lady, probably younger than y'all, like probably in her teens, and she was her mother loved her dearly, but her mother kind of kept her like in the house, almost locked in her bedroom, right? Because she wanted to keep her safe. And this teenager, like, she ran away, not forever, just for like a few hours, because that was her way just to get out into the world and improve. She knew it was dangerous, right? But she just wanted some of that independence and was willing to do something kind of dangerous to go do it. And like, it always sticks with me is like, oh my gosh, right? That folks feel that sort of, and with the best intentions, right? That mom loved her daughter, just wanted to keep her safe. But that keeping safe just kind of kind of constrains everybody a little bit. Like, it's sort of like, I don't want to, I'm being super dramatic now, right? But it kind of like is like a death of a little part of you, right? If you're not able to kind of go be
It drives you
yourselves.
nuts. It really
Yeah.
does.
Mm-hmm.
It
I
drives
used
you
to
nuts.
have I called it my not able to drive breakdown. Once a month, I would just
Mm-hmm.
start like sobbing about something stupid, but it's because I couldn't drive to get myself there. And it would be
Yeah.
like a full on like 20-minute, like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then like, I'd be like, I'll figure out another way to get there. But it was just like, it would
Mm-hmm.
all hit me and be like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was more, I called it a frustration cry more. Sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
happens now still, but not as much. But it definitely still
Mm-hmm.
get overwhelming because there's so much that I'm unable to do. Like when, I need to ride to work. And luckily, I work with one of my really good friends and she lives nearby. So she offers to pick me up. My parents don't live too far. But it's still like, even if I have to shower, my mom is like, let me come over instead of being on the phone so that I'm right there if something happens. I can't cook. I rely on my husband, who's already a nurse and spends all day taking care of
Mm-hmm.
other people, to take care of
Yeah.
me. And it just gets
Yeah.
like kind of
Yeah.
like a more so like a burden cry now, I call it. Like, not that I can't do it, but I feel bad that other people have to do it for me.
There's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more emotional stuff that goes into epilepsy than people realize. And I think
Oh yeah.
Miles may be able to show that
And
also.
Miles touched on that when we first met him, talking about when he used to work at the Northern California epilepsy camp for
Hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he would have kids come up and tell him that this was the first time they ever made a friend because of that
Mm-hmm.
stigma. And the irony is that stigma is how Bree and I became friends. So we're trauma bonded, but
Yeah.
it does.
They failed on their attempted assault, I guess you can say, but
Yes, but it really, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the stigma really is there, and I'll message friends and be like, somebody else just sent me flashing lights, with a not so nice
Yeah.
message,
I
and
know that's so. I know. I remember you were telling me that story, Grace. And I didn't put two and two. It's like, Bree, you are the other part of that story,
yep.
right?
yeah.
That yeah. I don't. I know you probably rehashed this for your audience before, but like, would you mind like telling us a little bit more about that? Right?
Oh,
People
no,
were
I don't
like,
mind.
Yeah, so I had followed Bree for a while, just like somebody. I
mm-hmm,
had just actually quit my full-time job because I couldn't deal. I was having seizures and migraines almost daily from the stress of it, and I couldn't take it. And so I started following Bree just to get another person's insight. I hadn't really followed anybody else that I knew had epilepsy or was kind of a support page. And one day I see, my inbox. I had just started my epilepsy page. I'm like, oh, someone messaged
mm-hmm.
me. Fun. And then I open it, and it was a bunch of flashing lights all in a row with messages saying that they would like to how do you say, unalive um every white American with epilepsy.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
And then, when Bree was like, I'm not photosensitive, they went into detail about how they would cause her to have a seizure in other ways. And yeah, it
And
was not fun.
Mm,
it wasn't fun, but it's like I've been through physically worse, so I was just kind of like, okay, this person is very miserable. But like
yeah.
everyone else was very offended. She and I actually did something about it.
I
And then,
contacted the FBI. The FBI
yeah,
actually opened up a case. They called me. I was on vacation. They were like, we don't know if anything will come of it, but we have this as an open case right now. I was like, thank you for actually doing something, because
Yeah.
reporting to Instagram, and they're like, they have not done anything that goes against our guidelines. And I'm like, really?
shocking.
They still say that if I ever try to report a page. sending the flashing.
It happens all the time, like, because they think everybody's photosensitive. So it's like they send, I'm not. So they always try to spam my account because I'm very thankful for it, a pretty good amount of followers on there, but they think spamming me is going to get to the rest of them. I don't understand what they're
Luckily,
doing.
though, because they don't think it through, you have so many followers, you're able to say, hey, if you get a message from this person, don't open it.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, it was just a bunch of fun stuff. That was like already, wow, almost 5 years ago. Crazy enough, but
And that
Yeah,
was
it
February of
has.
2020.
yeah, that's the main thing. I don't know why people are able to send flashing gifs and videos and all this stuff
It's
to
horrible messages. Like,
horrible stuff, but then Instagram and Facebook are like, they didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, really? It's like, I'm pretty sure it's not even run by people anymore. It's probably bots now, but it's still like, okay. And then people are like, I don't want to post about my epilepsy because people like this. I'm like, well, I can understand that, unfortunately, but I'm like,
Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, and it all comes back to like the stigma of epilepsy, right? Is what y'all were talking about a little bit, and it manifests itself in a lot of different ways. It could be, uh, I was going to use a word I probably shouldn't use on a podcast, unsavory people. I'll edit myself. This is PG rated, that are doing things like that towards y'all with like the photosensitive, the lights flashing. There's people that are just ignorant in a more garden variety way. They just,
there is a famous person who is ignorant,
Mhm.
who Bree had a run in. I will tell you their initials so they don't sue me, are CB, and they were known for beating up another famous woman back a
he
couple
was in a
years
double
ago,
mint
R&B
commercial a
artist.
while ago.
Oh, I know about
And
that.
somebody did a dancing video to one of their songs that looked exactly like a seizure. They shared it thinking it was funny. Bree called them out on it, and they responded to Bree saying, I'm going to bring a strobe light to your house.
Oh, geez.
So,
And I was like, please show up. I was like, because I'm not photosensitive. I'd love it. We can have a conversation, And it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, that's how far your career has fallen that you have time to answer me. Like, okay, buddy. Like he's just mad that his girlfriend makes billions of dollars now and he doesn't. So he's just mad.
I
Awful.
I know
I
that's
can't,
awful.
yeah,
I'm blown
mine
away by
actually,
like I mean the fact that Instagram and Facebook, like if it was some other group, I can't imagine that they would say the same, right? Like name the group, of whatever
Minority,
sub
you'd be in
sub
trouble.
sub yeah, they absolutely would be in trouble. They would be taking it down. Like
Yep.
that's just awful. And I mean the idea to just do that, I'm like, what I just don't comprehend the benefit that anybody would get from
How
you're
sad is
not
your
you're not
life?
seeing them respond. It's not like you're
Mhm.
on the phone with them or in person with them and like you
Yeah.
get some kind of sick, you know, happiness from seeing people suffer. Like you're just sending it out there and you don't even know. I mean, I can't even comprehend. I'm so sorry that it's happened.
It's like
It's
they're going fishing for nothing. Like it's like,
well, it's like what a pathetic excuse for a human, really. Like
yeah.
I can't think of another way to describe it because it's like there's yeah, like I said, at least a bully like maybe feels gratification if they punch somebody, I guess. It gets, you know what I'm saying?
like,
Like there's some kind of visceral reaction that they would
yeah.
have. Not that that's good, but at least it's something
You
rather than just
accomplished what
blind.
you wanted to do. This one, who knows if you're gonna accomplish it? It's just like, oh, okay, thank you. And
Oh,
it's like they think they're like the toughest people, and like you know what I mean? They
oh,
obviously
they're the
know.
weakest. They're the weakest for
Keyboard
sure. Oh my
They're
warriors
gosh.
the
are,
pit bulls and they're the chihuahuas. It's like, go away. Like
yeah, you
So
had
true.
an article from the UK written about you, about that interaction.
the UK Epilepsy Foundation was like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like, that's him. I was like, I forgot he even was a performer, to be honest with you. I mean, he hasn't done anything in like 10 years. I was like, I forgot. I was like, oh, you're still around. Okay. I was like, didn't
Oh,
know that.
I'm only laughing because I have no idea who you're talking about. I was like, I'm gonna go Google after this episode is over. I'm
She
like,
can send you
who
an
is
email,
that?
or like she
I'll
can like
text you. I'll text you the name.
Okay, thanks, Grace.
yeah, we just don't
I'm
want to
old.
get, he's miserable, so I don't want him to
Mhm.
do this. You know, it's just, oh my gosh.
Oh,
It's
and
just
yet it's like serial killers. Like you don't want to post who they are or anything about them because
Mhm.
it only just sort of
show
feeds
up.
the fire. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Sure, the
But,
serial killer would do a better job than he would, though.
Bree, Miles recently asked you about that, didn't he? So he could.
Yes, he did. Funny enough, he asked me, he's like, "Do you still have that conversation? Can I have it? I want to show somebody." I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
I wasn't very nice in it. I used some pretty
Choice words.
words, but I think he earned it.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was like,
Yeah,
um,
and I think that's an amazing, it's an empowering thing. Don't wish, right, the experiences y'all had on anybody. Um, but maybe one of the things that this movie is going to do is going to give people that empowered feeling is that like y'all are obviously empowered, stepping up, pushing back against these cyber bullies. Like
they're so tough,
as more folks
you know?
see the film, right? Folks in the epilepsy community, they're like, oh yeah, like I'm being represented. I can stand up. I can push back against folks that either are doing awful stuff or maybe even people just don't know, right? I think there's even that sort of side of things where like that's where we're kind of proud to be part of this is just to like raise awareness for folks that don't know anything about
They
seizures and
don't.
epilepsy. Like one of the things that we always hear about, and maybe Laura, you've heard this, you teach the training class, is like there's still like these myths around seizures of like, oh, if someone's having a seizure, stick a spoon in their mouth. It's like, oh my God, like I don't know where that came from, but like y'all need to stop doing that.
That
I
had to
don't
have
know.
been in like the 1700s or something like
Yeah.
that. Just,
Yep. Yeah, it's that sort of raising awareness amongst folks who just might not even know.
or the
Um,
countries that still think it's possession. Like there
yeah,
are cultures that still think so, and it's like,
yep, yeah. That's the
Lots of them, possession and
mhm,
demons. I mean, the sort of myths that go along with it in other
spiritual
parts of the
stuff.
world.
I actually
yeah.
just asked my husband if this Halloween he would watch The Exorcism of Emily Rose with me because I recently found out, I don't know if
It
you've
is
seen the movie, but her possession, she had epilepsy in her
Mhm,
temporal lobe, which is also where you tend to like see hallucinations or
mhm,
like hear things. And it can also cause something called hyperreligionism or something like that. And my husband
oh,
also read that she had schizophrenia, which can go along with temporal lobe epilepsy. So there's a good chance the demonic possessions she saw were seizures, but they weren't treated as seizures. Like she tried one
yeah,
medication and it didn't work. So they were like, well, it's
mhm,
not epilepsy. And I'm like, excuse me. Like I am on
yeah,
movie about me
three
too.
currently.
Yeah. I've seen it. You might have a tough time with it, but now you know what it's about, not like the other one. Because I
Anyway,
know,
yeah, she ended up dying from the exorcisms. She had like 67 exorcisms,
oh
and
my gosh.
because they were like, it must be possession. And I'm like, this was in the 1960s. Like, it's not like the
Mhm,
1800s either.
yeah,
right when they were filming The Other Exorcist. Isn't that
Yes.
mhm, yep.
isn't that
Um,
something?
no, it is like it goes deep, right? There is
It does.
like in China, and like you raised, don't quote me on this, but if I recall correctly, like word for seizure kind of has its roots back to like something like it's crazy goat disease or something like that, right? Because it comes back to like this was something not of this earth. It was something that was seen as like a whatever you had done wrong, and right, this was your curse from the gods. Um, like I remember being in been lucky enough to be different places in this world. And I was in a castle in Europe, and they take you through like the tours and like, oh, look, here's the dungeon. They show you like all these sort of very medieval, bad things, right? Oh, here's the shackles and here's the thing and the whatever. And in that display case, they had like a helmet. And like here was the helmet that they put on people who like we now know were living with epilepsy, with seizures. This is the helmet they put on their head so they wouldn't like hurt themselves while they were in the dungeon for being right. They were incarcerated for this. Like it's been,
But they thought it was like contagious or something,
yeah,
so it
like
kept them away.
misunderstood for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? It like runs deep.
But you go
Yeah, it
to
hit.
like West Indies, they still think that way. In
Mhm,
Africa, they still have some of those beliefs there. In some parts of Africa, and like, I mean, they're away from what you would call modern society, but
right.
it's
But
still
still way more for where we are. And I mean,
Mhm,
the other sad part is like, if you even in this world that we're in, there are lots of first responders who will arrest or do other to someone having a seizure, thinking they are
mhm,
overdosing or they're, super intoxicated. And I had a
being
friend,
Especially
violent
if it's
and stuff.
not a tonic-clonic
it's
seizure, if it's like, a
well, if
partial
it's like you said,
complex
like
where
a
they're like, oh,
temporal
you're on,
temporal
yeah.
lobe, yeah, or frontal lobe, like if they have epilepsy in that frontal lobe where all of our judgment is and our behavior, like there's all
mhm,
kinds of things that could happen if you're having a
yeah,
seizure in that area of your brain. And it is, I worked with a guy, and I work on a local foundation here as well, and it's he was heading an event with me, and we were like raising awareness at a table, and the fire department was across from us, and he grew up in a rural town, and he was like, yeah, so that's the guy that threw me on the ground and handcuffed me when I had a seizure when I was 16 because he thought I was overdosing. And he was like, that's the guy. And I'm like, gosh, I hope
There's a
he's
mhm,
gotten
huge case
first
in
aid.
Canada about that. Some guy got the crap beat out of him because he was having a seizure by the cops, and he was arrested. They're still doing like a fundraiser for him because they didn't know what he was doing. And it's like, who are you supposed to call when you have a seizure? Then you need emergency. Like, you're just supposed to sit in your room and be like,
mhm,
Or
you know,
even
Yeah.
there's a nurse that I saw on Facebook who like, jokes about his job and everything. And he did a video where he like says, I'm having a seizure, and like is basically saying like, yeah, yeah, right. And I'm like, I could go into a hospital and tell someone I've been having a seizure for 15 minutes. And I could do that. But now you're making less people take that seriously.
mhm,
Like when I explain to people at work, like I'd be able to tell you, like generally I'd be able to tell you if I'm having a seizure.
mm-hmm.
They're like, "Oh, okay." But now you're making that look inaccurate as a medical personnel, being like, "No, you're faking it."
mhm,
And ever since my brain surgery, I can feel them coming on too. And so it's like, are you telling me I'm lying? Like, it's like there are at least 40 types of seizures, and that's at least. So it's like, who knows what they're all like. But it just like to see stuff like that, it just makes me angry to see all these stupid people like just defame it, I guess you could say. It's like you do this to anything else, you're going through the ringer, but you do it with
mhm,
epilepsy. It's like, oh, I'll just jump on. It's funny. It's like,
yeah,
And back to the like it doesn't help the stigma at all. Um,
mm-mm.
and I know Miles had mentioned that people used the film to kind of like come out to their friend group as having epilepsy, like show it
yeah,
to your friends, see their reaction and say, "Guess what? I have that." And I think it's incredible that people
mhm,
are able to do that instead of like, for example, showing The Exorcist and saying, I have that, but it's different. Now
yeah,
they're able to take something and say,
mhm,
I have this. And like the film shows, I'm living with it and it affects my life.
Yeah, it's not just a seizure, the end. There's a lot
Right.
more to it.
mhm, yeah,
Well, and it's like I think I've heard Miles say that too. And it's such I know that for him, it's so many more benefits have come back to him, like after creating the short, and like he had no idea sort of the following it would get. But that is, the story is, I don't have to, because it's hard to describe, right? I mean, we can all say it here because we're kind of really close to it. Like I feel left out, or I feel excluded, I feel robbed of these experiences. But sort of to sit down with a family member, or sit down with friends in some,
mhm,
forum, and go on and on about how you feel, like nobody wants to do that. And so here's the thing where you go,
That's
just
what
sit here
therapy
for a
is
couple
for.
minutes. Yeah, exactly, right? Like just sit here for a couple of minutes, and then that's good enough. And then that's how I feel pretty much.
Yeah.
Any questions about it, or, that makes sense. And I think that's such a really important thing, because otherwise it just keeps you even more isolated, because you can't be yourself, or you can't really feel the way you want to feel. And that's another whole barrier that comes on the outside of how you normally would feel about not driving and not being able to go to stuff.
Yeah, like some people you even tell them it's like, I don't feel like doing that today. They don't have, well, why not? You haven't had a seizure. I'm like, okay, that's not the point. It's like, just listen. I'm like, I'm like, I know I
Mm.
haven't had one. I'd like to keep it that way. Like,
That's
so,
why I don't want to do this.
so it's like
Mhm.
they don't get it, but then you like show them these types of things and they're like, oh, so it bugs you like all the time. Yeah, like all the time. There you go.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to have surrounded myself with people who understand. I was just on a good friend's bachelorette party, and she knows I don't really drink. I had like a sip of champagne at dinner and I gave her the rest. I'm like, here you go. She
Mhm.
knows, like, tapped out, and I even said, like, oh, can I have a sip of that? She's like, I'm cutting you off. Like, I know you. I know you want to be included. And I was like, that's how I know you're a good friend. Because you're not just like, oh, you want it? She's like, no.
Mhm.
Like, no, go stay sober.
Yeah,
There you
basically. I also joke that I used to joke in college that I was useless at parties because I couldn't drink and I couldn't be the DD. I would just stand there and judge
That's me
everyone.
too. All my friends, I'm like, I can just sit there. I can tell you not to go home. That's about it. I can hide your keys. That's about it.
I'll forget where they are, so I don't
Same,
know.
exactly. I'll hide your keys.
That's spectacular. So what was it like, what was it like, Grace, to be at the prom scene, right? Because that was a big party.
Yeah,
Prom scene for the film where you and Jordan, a few other folks were part of that. Because that was a party, right?
it
How'd you
was a
feel
party. It
being
was
there?
really fun. I thought it was gonna be more, not that it wasn't work, but I thought it was gonna feel more like work. And
Hmm.
Miles just, he made it a party. And it was so, like, he kept coming over. Like I said, we kind of had a group where like 3 or 4 people in this one group realized we all had epilepsy or connection to epilepsy. And we kind of like, you know how like a prom you make a group with your friends, and we kind of ended up just sticking together like the whole day. And Miles would come over and check on us, be like, "Do you guys need anything? Are you okay?" He was very attentive, and it was a lot of fun. I was surprised, especially with the time change, how I did not feel that tired until I called Bree when I got back to my hotel room. And then I fell asleep on the phone waiting for my mom to bring me food. And I texted her. I was like, "I did not have a seizure. Don't worry. I just fell asleep."
Yeah, you had to come to my neck of the woods, just on the northern part. Yeah, I couldn't
But
go
yeah,
because
I
my
had
sister.
told her that I was coming out, and so I called her just to be like, "Yeah, it was fun." I honestly, that was the most exercise that I had gotten in a really long time. I'm not the most athletic, but it was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
and it was
like I
something
said,
that and I love the story. So we got to sit down. Grace and myself gave an interview on camera, and the thing that struck me about that, your story, Grace, and some for some other folks that were there as well, is how the prom scene for y'all was almost a do-over, right? Or at least it was some redemption from maybe a less than great prom in your high school years.
yeah, prom in my high school years, I think part of it too is because I knew all of my friends when I went to prom were gonna leave,
Mhm.
go to a party, be drinking, and I was gonna leave and go to bed. Like, it was very different, and I knew they were like gonna
Mhm.
like continue the party, if you want to say,
Yeah.
after prom, like keep doing all these things that I was lower on energy. I was having a lot of seizures at the time, so I was worried about that. It was like all of these things kind of going on in my, or not lower, having more seizures at the time. And
Mhm.
so kind of all of these worries, and I was still new to the diagnosis as well. I was diagnosed October of my senior year. So even I was still figuring out like what's a seizure, what's not for me. And especially like the embarrassment if I were to have a seizure in front of my entire graduating class, like what would that have been like? So it was very,
Mhm.
I would say, worrisome, but also like I knew I was missing out on things. And then we get together, graduation, and people are like, oh, after prom, I did this and I did this and I did this. And I was like, I went home and I went to bed, fell asleep in my makeup, and then I broke out all over my face.
Mm-hmm. Oh no. If it makes you feel
Like,
any better, like if Laura and I went to prom, we would probably go home and go right to bed as well, right? That sounds actually kind of amazing now at this point.
right?
I've like taken a nap
I'm
and
gonna take
not
a
the
nap
after
like
party
midway
stuff.
through prom, and then I'll be ready to party some more. Like
Hmm.
a
I
mid
went to a
prom nap.
concert instead. I didn't go to prom. I was like, I'm gonna go to a concert instead. So, and everyone's like, you'll regret that. I was like, no, I don't talk to anybody from high school still. So I'm like, we're good.
Hmm.
Well, one, but he was 2 years older than me. We wouldn't have gone to prom together anyway. But it's just, I was
Yeah.
like, I
It
don't need to
was.
pay $300.
I had fun at my high school prom, but looking back, it definitely wasn't like the prom experience that everyone has.
Hmm.
Like my husband's prom experience was very different from mine. And yeah, I would say this was like I was more with my people for this prom.
Yeah.
Like I obviously had friends in high school and we were really close and we had fun, but this was more like if I have a seizure, people will get it. You know,
Hmm.
if I start to get really tired, people are going to get it. Nobody's going home and partying afterwards. We're all just going home and going to sleep.
Yeah.
Funny enough, something my high school started doing after I graduated was having like, I don't know what they want to call it, but like a special ed prom or a disabled prom for people with disabilities at that school. So you can
Oh,
go
that's
and like
cool.
people would understand. I'm like, well, not when I was there, but like my little sister has autism, so she went to it a couple times.
Oh,
And like it
cool.
was just all people that get it. And like it was earlier, like they helped bus you there. And I was like, all right, well, I could have
And
hung out with that.
Hmm.
I think it being an epilepsy movie, there were even people like in our group who asked, what do I do if you have a seizure? And that was so refreshing to hear somebody just say, what do I do? I was like, okay. And then because there were so many people in our group who had so many different seizures, it was kind of like a little lesson like, well, mine look like this, and mine look like this, and
Yeah.
mine look like this. And I
Mhm.
think they were like, what at first, but then they were like, oh, okay.
Hmm. Yeah. And what would that look like to have now? Like I'm dreaming big, right? Like what would that look like to have those experiences that y'all had there on the set, the prom scene? It was a moment in time. Like what if like every prom was like that? Or what if there were even prom parties, right, during the release of the feature-length film? Like,
That
would
would be
that be
fun.
cool? Like if there were prom parties like all over the US and like big cities where the movie is being released, like would people come to that? Would they be like, hey, I'm gonna go to this under the lights prom party? Like
I would
get
hope
your
so.
get your prom dress. Like we could like break out like we're old people here, like break out the boutonniere, the little
The
corsage.
80s style prom.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, Chris, because I'm thinking I went to a movie recently, and I
Mhm.
won't say, but TS was the initials of the artist. But anyway, it was not the concert, but it was the movie. And
Oh, gross. I know exactly what that means. All right,
I was
sorry.
shocked. I was shocked at all of the extra, like, and it was reminding me of, I'm a nerd at heart too. So I've been to a Star Wars movie and wore a Darth Vaderette outfit. So I'm not gonna, be shy about that. But like that is something people do, and they get dressed up and they do stuff. And so
Mhm.
that seems like a really cool idea. And this thing I went to, it was like there were lots of bracelets, there were a lot of sequins, and people of all ages, and
Yeah.
Sorry, but
dancing in the theater, like all very exciting kinds of stuff.
the
So that would be,
cosplay thing, they would do that probably with Sam. I wonder if they do that because people make helmets. They're done.
oh
It's
yeah,
turned into a thing.
Yeah.
yeah, that might be.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't think of it in terms of that kind of an experience, because I've only been to one Star Wars movie where I dressed up, honestly. But that was like the best one I'd ever been to. But yeah, interesting. That would be that experience, Gracie, you talk about with everybody. Feeling it seems like it would be just a big hug, like you just had a big hug for
Mhm.
all day of the hours
It
of
was
shooting it.
nice, but I also like I was about to say my watch was telling me my steps were up, but I wasn't wearing my watch. But I did feel the cardio. Like I was like, I am sweaty. I brought extra deodorant in my bag for this reason.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's amazing, y'all. Yeah, so I think I'm writing that note down. Prom movie premieres.
You'd have
I'm
to
honestly
like
wondering if we're
have the
gonna do.
party either after the I feel like after the movie though, because otherwise people are gonna get like too amped up and then fall asleep during the movie would be my worry. If you like, so you'd have to like have people show
Maybe a
up watch
2-day
the movie,
thing.
do like a matinee show and
Oh
the
yeah, there
party
we
after.
go. A little matinee and then like an
Well,
after
even like,
party.
yeah, maybe even 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So it's sort of later afternoon, and
Yeah,
then
Mhm.
you turn it into the, party
that
dancing after.
yeah would be my go-to because I know me, and no matter how into a movie I am, if I'm too tired from like even social interaction like wipes me out. So if I'm too tired from being around a bunch of people, I'll like start to doze off, and this is not a movie that I would
Mhm.
want to doze off during.
No, and that's like the meeting where you can meet a bunch of us. So you wouldn't want to sleep through that either. So it'd be like I'd feel like horrible if I was just sitting there like,
Uh,
like not hanging out with people, but oh my gosh. Because like she and I have been planning this premiere for like 2 years now. Because she's gonna come out here because I only have to drive an hour to
mhm.
go to the one in LA. So we're trying to figure that out. So it's like I also want to know what's going on already. Like I'm impatient. Like I'm like, but
Oh,
I mean,
about the feature length film.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I
like
think
I'm sitting here like
yeah, I think news we swore to Miles we wouldn't, spill any beans, but like news to be coming soon.
Oh,
yeah,
we'll
don't
keep
worry, I
an eye
won't.
out for soon.
Yeah. We'll hold you too soon. I'm just kidding, but it's like I can also bug him if I wanted to. I'm not bugging him though. It's like I'm letting him enjoy his full actual experience of being a director and getting a feature length
Mhm.
out there.
I did
And I know
slightly
that
bug him.
editing takes forever.
I did
So
slightly bug him based on when they said the premiere was going to be when you like bought the tickets for that. I was like, my friend is getting married on this date, FYI, like kind of joking. He's like, it won't be that early. I'm like, okay, we're good.
I hope
Mhm.
not. I hope it's later in the year because of California weather. That's all I hope.
But
Yeah,
Everyone's gonna be
a thing
sweating.
though that y'all can go see. Can I put in a plug for another amazing initiative that's is going on
yeah.
in the epilepsy community? Is that we're switching gears a little bit from feature length films now to Broadway style musicals. Hey, we're super
I
proud to
love
partner.
musicals, so
Yeah, it's amazing. So we're super proud to partner up with a guy named Ben Decter and Kristen Henge. They are the writer, director, producer of a new musical called It's All Your Fault, Tyler Price. And y'all can check it out at tylerpricemusical.com. And that's actually hitting the theater in LA in mid November, November 15th to be precise, and going to run for a few weeks there in LA. And it's another amazing story of bringing really the story of a family struggle with seizures to a broader audience. So it's an amazing show where I think folks will come for the music, come for the story, and leave with a little bit of a better understanding of what some rare epilepsies could be. Different epilepsies than probably we saw with Under the Lights in the short. Something that has some more broad ranging impacts developmentally and otherwise, right? With some of the folks living in that family.
Yeah, we have a couple rare epilepsy parents in, our online community
Hmm.
that we see, and it is definitely a whole family diagnosis when I
Yeah.
mean epilepsy itself is, but when you get into those, more severe
Hmm.
rare
yeah.
forms, it is definitely, and not just the like how am I trying to say this? Immediate family, but also extended family as well, because everything is impacted.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw that musical's Instagram page and I was laughing with her, not at it, well kind of just at the name because my brother's name is Tyler. So when I saw It's All Your Fault, Tyler, I just started dying laughing. I was like, see, I told everybody, but
It's all
like
your fault.
now there you go. But like now, no, I've seen a couple of their posts and stuff, and I'm like, oh, now I know what it is. So I'm like,
Hmm.
And like I said, I love musicals. I've always wanted to go to a Broadway show. Just don't know if I want to go to New York right now. So, you know, but
Well,
I
it's LA. Like that's the nice thing. It's
exactly.
LA. Yeah. So it'll be hopefully it will. I guess the hope, Chris, and I'm not as familiar with the run of these kinds of, I'm not familiar with any of this in entertainment industry stuff, but I think if it has a great run in LA, potentially it will, right, get picked up or be
Yeah,
moving around the country.
that's the hope, right?
Is it at the Pantages in LA? Is that where it is?
It's at the Hudson Theater in Hollywood.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And but yeah, like I think the goal for a lot of these shows is that they get their start in like big places like LA. The right people see them and say, "Oh, like that's an amazing show. Like I'll pick that up and then take it on to off Broadway or to Broadway." And right in at that point, they get really big and they reach audiences of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people.
That's like a totally different
Mhm.
route than anyone's gone though. So it's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But it's the power, like, I mean, y'all know, right? You are creating content here, right? With this podcast. We're reaching audiences and where they are, right? No longer is it I'm not saying like people don't go to say epilepsy walks or people don't go to websites anymore. People don't kind of talk to their doctor. You should always talk to your doctor. But there's other channels to get information, right? And podcasts, theater, YouTube with like the short movie theaters, right? This is what we need to reach. And we're really going to start to change that stigma, reach folks where they are and where they want to listen to this content.
people
Yeah.
don't want to sit there and read. I'm not gonna lie. People are kind of lazy these days. I mean, I like reading, but they don't want to read. They want to
Mhm.
watch it and flip through it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to hit as many as I can. So I read Kurt Eichenwald's book, um, A Mind Unraveled, which is all about his epilepsy diagnosis in
Oh,
college.
I don't know that
And
book.
it is really good. It's not too, like, it's not a hard read, but it is
Hmm.
a hard read, like, emotionally, I would say. Um, but it's very eye-opening. So
Hmm.
I've read that a couple times actually. I like to reread things because I forget what happens in them. Then it's like watching a show again. It's like you know mainly what happens, but you forget the little pieces.
Hmm.
Do that too, Grace. So you're in good company. I reread books,
Same.
I rewatch movies and shows. So yeah, continue though. What you were going to talk about
So
another book.
I've read that, and that's like I would say the big epilepsy book right now. I don't know if like a fiction epilepsy book, at least one that's been picked up.
Unless if you consider the little kids ones fiction, I guess kind of,
But
but
not like a novel. Let me
yeah,
rephrase it, like
no,
a novel. Um,
I think so.
but because I remember like when I was before my diagnosis, I was really into John Green books, and I read The Fault in Our Stars and loved it. And I went to
That was a good one.
kind of like a Fault in Our Stars nerd movie premiere. It came out 2 days before my birthday. So for my birthday, I went to this premiere. Um, and then he had a book that really explained my anxiety really well called Turtles All the Way Down. And I was reading that, and that was made into a movie. And I used that movie to kind of explain to my husband and my dad how my brain works because they're always
Hmm.
like, just don't worry about it. And I'm like, what do you mean, don't worry about it? It's here. I should be worrying. Um, so that's like kind of another way that film was used
Hmm.
to talk about
Yeah.
more. That's mental illness, but I thought that was really good. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know I'd forgotten about A Fault in Our Stars. Like I'd read that book. I never saw the movie.
the movie's
Uh,
good. I cried.
yeah, it's so sad. Like that's the two main characters have, is it terminal cancer, right? Is that
Yeah,
what it?
so
Hmm.
I think that movie kind of kicked off the disability train for
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
Hmm.
because I feel like a lot more movies have come out about disabilities since that one.
Hmm.
Um and now it's our turn.
I know, damn it. We've been
Damn
around
it, now it's our turn. Yeah.
since ancient times. We've been around. It's our turn. It's like it's
As
crazy.
long as we've had brains, it's been around. Like
Yep.
that's the other sort of
So does that mean
basic.
we don't have them anymore? Like we don't have epilepsy since we don't have brains anymore these days, but
No, we
I-
did one of our first podcast episodes we did with a friend, and it was like a Halloween episode, and we looked back at all the weird old ways they used to treat epilepsy.
Oh,
Like you could get stung by someone, I forget who it was, but they realized that it was electrical. So they were like, "Oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have like a stingray." No, it was an electrical eel or something, like another
yeah, something like
electrical thing. They were like, "You'll get stung by that." And I'm like,
as
they
a
still
treatment.
live. Yeah.
there's a lot of weird stuff if you look into
I
like
think
the
in ancient Rome they were like, drink gladiator blood. Then
Mhm.
it was
Well, and I
Yep.
was going to say there's like skulls that they found where they drilled holes in the skull and doing various brain operations. But another one like that's kind of interesting, I think, is they would go on these massive fasts and starve people. And like I'm not a medical person, but anyway, that was like the origins of those sort of fasting, starving diets that they put people on, that the ketogenic diet sort of sprung
I
because
was gonna
they
say almost like
got some
keto, but
stuff.
not.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, obviously starving is not keto.
yeah.
But
They
it
had
was
the
like,
idea, I guess.
yeah, something about what we're intaking in food will
Mhm.
affect our brain function and therefore, whatever they deduced. But that so many crazy things they used to do thinking
I
it
find it
was a good
super
idea.
interesting. People get offended when I post about this stuff, but this is what I post about in October. I'm like, "Oh, welcome to the weird side of epilepsy." And they're like, "Why do
I
you
find
say
it
that?"
interesting, and I'm thankful that I'm alive now when I have medication and like whatever it's called. What do they use when you're in surgery so that you can't feel anything, Bree?
Anesthesia?
Thank you. Can't think of words today. Anesthesia.
It did not like me.
It doesn't like me either, but what are you gonna do?
At least I didn't feel my brain surgery, but it did not.
Exactly.
Yeah. A plus.
Yeah, it did not like me
More so my
waking up.
stomach didn't like it. I'll put it that. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. No, but it's just I mean, it's an interesting disability diagnosis, whatever you want to call it. I just wish more people would look into it than what it is for face value.
Which hopefully,
Mhm.
this musical and this movie are going to push people to do is
Mhm.
learn about it and say, okay, it's not something that, is really weird, or it's not as crazy as the, rest of media makes it out to be.
Yeah.
I'll do some research on it. And then
Yeah. 100% on that. Like, what do y'all think? Like, does social media have a role to play in that? Like, are there like some viral trends that we could kick off, like in support of the film that
there are a
raises
lot of
awareness?
hashtags with film. If we could find a hashtag to put with it. I don't know, Bree,
I know
can
a
you?
lot of people do reels suddenly. I mean, not suddenly, but I guess people love the fact that I do memes. So I could
Mhm.
try to find a meme with fit it into it. It's just yeah, I mean, every day I do at least one meme.
Ask
So
Miles for a picture and make it a meme.
Yeah,
make
make
him
it a
one.
meme. Or
I
like,
do
what are
actually
some of
have one
the
of him. I
I
have to find
already
it.
have one of him. Let me get
No,
it.
I do. I remember because he kept asking me to send it to him. He's like, "Can I have this?" And I was like, "Oh no, I do have one."
we're gonna memify Miles. We have Grace knows I take my camera everywhere. I have a million pictures of Miles. We have probably some good ones, some embarrassing ones. We
Perfect.
could turn that into a meme perhaps.
I
Yeah.
can help you out if you want. I am totally down to turn him into a meme.
She's
Okay.
she's the real creative one. She come up with any caption for any picture.
Yeah,
It's
I
epic.
save meme pictures and try to fit it into epilepsy somehow. So it's like perfect. Even better if I know him.
Yeah, that's spectacular. Okay, so we got memes. What's the thing? And I'm a little bit old here, I have to admit, but like what are some of those like viral challenges? Like there was a thing where like you were trying to make people slap them with a tortilla shell. Like
Oh
are there
yeah.
are there things like that that we can reach people
I don't
to
know
help
about
raise?
like that, but
We can probably come up with like a challenge. We can probably
maybe
come
a
up with
challenge
one.
and share it if people want to be known to like
Hmm.
Miles and I'm forgetting it, Pierce. People like
Maybe
that.
tell Miles and have them make cheese. That's their challenge.
What?
everyone
Ellen
knows
Moore
how
making cheese?
Miles knows how to make cheese. Yeah.
Miles makes really good cheese. Do you know that, Chris? Did
I
I
didn't
know
know
something
that.
you didn't
No.
know? Yeah. He sent me a
Yeah,
picture of Bree that he made.
Take
I
a picture of a
think
piece
it
of
was a
cheese
Brie.
and then put an epilepsy fact on it.
yeah.
Love it. All
Just
right.
send it is.
And you can
Right
make
in.
them, we can make them really cheesy, right? You
Yeah,
could
there
you
you
do
go.
could you
Yes,
do
I like.
something with a, oh, that's so great. Could you make, now you got me rolling. Okay, here we go, y'all. Could it be like this is your, I'm saying like you could alliterate it with like, this is Parmesan facts. P is for,
I mean, I can totally do. I have nothing better to do than just like,
yeah.
Julius
like
Caesar salad has this
Ooh,
type of
Caesar
cheese.
salad. Grace, that's a winner.
I accidentally say it all the time at
So
restaurants.
do I.
I'm like, can I please have the Caesar salad? And they stare at me and I'm like,
Like,
"Sure."
just
Sorry.
kidding.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Now you have maybe, okay, Caesar salad with some like grated Parmesan on it. You could do some cheddar. I'm drawing a blank. This is gonna, we'll just cut this from the podcast. This is Chris trying to be creative and failing live on
That's okay. I'm
television.
not being good at it either, so people can see how hard I work at my freaking meme for y'all. But like, no,
You make a Caesar salad and then you put components of epilepsy facts into it, and then there's your salad.
and then you
Mhm.
shake it up. There you go. We're done. It's
You shake it. That's terrible. Sorry.
All right, I'll work on my cheddar game, my cheese game here. Next time we come back, I'll have a whole list. We'll be all set. I like the
We'll,
idea.
we'll
Just
come get
slap-
him. We got time.
Don't slap people with a tortilla, just slap people with a piece of cheese while you say a seizure fact.
A whole wheel of cheese, just like, oh my god.
That's
No,
right.
a slice. Not a wheel, a slice.
Oh, slice, yeah. Swiss
Yeah.
cheese with lots of
We're
holes in it, so it
we're
wouldn't
not
like
trying
hurt
to
very
create a
much.
traumatic brain injury here, folks. Let's just
No.
keep it safe.
True.
Let's keep it safe. No traumatic brain
We
injury.
already
for
all
the other
have them. It's
Mhm.
okay. It's all right. We already all have them.
Ooh, you know what could be fun
Just
with
kidding.
that though is like cheese from different parts of the world would highlight, right? That seizures are not just right here in the US, right? You could have, some feta cheese and be like, talk to somebody in Greece about like what the seizure experience is like there. Somebody that has some Gruyere and like, ooh, these Swiss people and French people
This
have
is gonna
their
make
own.
me hungry because I love cheese. But
Yeah.
like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but no,
Yeah.
it's like I keep telling him to make me a wheel already. I'm like, damn it, I helped you promote so much, dude. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some cheese.
Mhm. It's like we live in the same state. Come on now. But no, it's like I just know when this takes off. It was huge when it went. So when the full
Mhm.
length, it's gonna be, I don't even know. I don't know if he's ready for it, honestly, for how big it's gonna get. Cause just a little, like, how long was it? 11, 12-minute movie? Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. It
Mhm.
got like fan art upon like, and then people will follow me just because like his pages follow me, like they're like, can I talk to him? I'm like, you can try to message him, like I don't know what you want me to do.
You want me to send a message for you? Because no, he's busy.
No, I'm like, I just leave him be. He's got things to do right now. But
Yeah.
that his following is huge. It's crazy. Or his fan base, I guess you can say, is huge.
And I'm just
Mhm.
excited to see what it does for our community.
Yeah. It's gonna be big. And again, if
Mhm.
you haven't seen it, I don't know why. German now for some reason. Some way I got translated to German. So
If you're in
I
Germany,
don't know.
you can go watch it now.
Yeah, I
Oh,
guess
there
if
we
you
go.
want. Yeah. It's like I don't know who did that, so I can't, give you any credit, but I just found out from Miles that it is in German now.
Oh, the short's in German.
Mhm. Well, German
Has it been,
subtitles, yeah.
Yeah.
oh, okay. Has it been translated in other, because I know this is something that you got asked often, but do you know other countries that have done that or have made it
No.
available?
I
I'm
have
not
not checked.
sure. I mean, we can find out and make a list of it, but it's like I would think Spanish by now. but I don't know.
Yeah,
I think, but you never know.
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not sure who is translating them either. That's like, uh,
Yeah, very cool.
yeah. But it seems like even though it was just in English, it took off all over the world anyway. So
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
and more to come. More to
thank you
come,
guys
right,
for
as the
all the
feature
work
length
that you
comes.
did with him to help it get where it is and all the work that you do for the community as well.
The labor of love. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Grace.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it
definitely a
really
labor.
is.
Mhm.
get
Yeah, I
attached to
mean,
it.
yeah, we're attached to it. At a certain point, like it ceases to be like a job. It is like we joke sometimes that like we're Miles' long lost aunt and uncle here. Part of part of the family
Whether he
now.
wants us or not.
Yeah, then kick us out.
I'm sure he loves you guys. I'm sure. I'm
Most of the time, I think.
sure I bug him every once in a while too. It's all right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
been a
But that's part of
privilege.
what this is, right? It's a family affair. It is something that Miles talks about a lot, right? It's more than a movie, it's a mission.
Mhm.
And like being on set, like we were there during filming where Miles' mom and dad, Larry and Lori, were on set, and they were just sharing a little bit, and you could see just the love that they felt for all of the cast and the crew, many of whom Miles has known for years and years and years, right? Folks, we met a guy named Forrest, who's one of Miles' longtime friends, like actually put his own business on pause to come out and work
Wow.
on the film, right? It meant that much to him to be part of this movie. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to shut down my business for a little bit and come out here. And all the folks that were on the set, just you could feel the love around the making of this movie. So yeah, I think as you say, Grace, like it's a family affair. Bree, like you know too, right? These are this you get part of this community, you get part of this mission, and yeah, the boundaries start to blur with like, are we getting paid to do this? Is this a job? Is this something else? Like it's definitely in the it's something else category at the moment, and
Yeah,
that good something else category.
I've met some of my best friends having this stupid diagnosis. So it's
Hmm.
like people I talk to every day. Like she's one of them. I have people in Canada I talk to every day. Why would I otherwise?
Hmm.
It's like I do like
Yeah.
hockey, but it's like we don't like the same teams. So,
Hmm.
it's you meet people all over the place for this reason. And it's like you felt like you've known them forever, even if we haven't gotten the chance to hang out yet. Like she
Yeah.
haven't been able to hang out yet,
Yep.
but
Yeah,
she's like got the
100% on
background.
that sort of stuff. And like you said it earlier today, like trauma bonded. Like not everybody has to go through the trauma that y'all went through, right? With those, horrible folks with the lights. But like going through experiences with people makes bonds, right? If we have more experiences together, like we've had this experience here together, like we're part of the family now. As folks are using the short to kind of share their experiences with their families, they're part of the bigger family, right? As people are going to go into that movie theater, they're going to be part of the family too because they've had a shared experience about like what this thing is, this thing about seizures and epilepsy in our community, right? Like that's what I get super excited about is like we're growing that circle wider, right? Growing the family bigger through all these efforts.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like even if it's just the epilepsy, talk to somebody else that has it and it makes it a
Hmm.
lot easier to go through your diagnosis. And
Yeah.
it's like people don't realize that. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to people." I'm like, "No, you
Hmm.
need to though." Like if they do, it's like you don't feel alone. You don't feel like you're the only person on the planet that goes through this or feels this way and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
That's where I think social media especially plays a huge role into it
Hmm.
because it's like a lot of us can't leave the house to go hang out with people. So that's where
Yeah.
we can, you know, meet our friends and stuff. But other than that, it's like we need to evolve, I guess you can say, and take it past just social media and talking about it.
Hmm.
So, and we're getting there,
That's what the
I
Yeah.
think.
movie will help kickstart, I hope.
I
Hmm.
hope so.
Conversations outside of social media is, hey, I went to go see this movie and it's about this. And
Yeah.
then somebody can say, because almost everyone knows someone,
Hmm.
like oh, my cousin has it. Oh, and then, you know, a chain reaction from that, I hope.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Same thing
Mm.
with the musical too. I saw a
Yeah.
musical about this and same thing.
Yeah.
And musicals is a whole different group of people too. Like that's a whole different fan base. So it's like,
Mhm.
you know, the music nerds. So, which is not a bad thing because that's what I majored in. So it's like you get a whole different stuff.
You're talking to two former marching banders, so you're in good company. Chris and I both not together, but yeah, in our past lives, we were in the marching. So yay for the musical nerds.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Proud,
love
proud
it.
member. Music nerds. Music nerds unite.
Yeah,
For sure.
I'm not upset about it. This whole entire sleeve is all music themed, if you can't tell. So
Yeah, absolutely. Oh
But
yeah, you can see I got
that's
my
so
banjo
true.
in the
Yeah.
background.
yeah,
We'll
I
do
noticed.
a little bluegrass. We'll bring the bluegrass community into this whole thing too.
Perfect. I have some friends in Tennessee. Family too, actually. But yeah, it's like it's just it'll be really exciting to see everybody agree for once and not fight about it. Let's just put it that way. Because some people like to get sensitive about it, but I
Mhm.
think this will help it.
I agree.
Yeah. So I'm hoping. I just want to I know he's got a lot to do with editing and all that fun stuff, but it's just like waiting. It's like, come on. And
Go get
I
it
know
Yeah.
done.
the longest.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, that's a good thing. Like I think that's you're right. Sometimes waiting can be fun, right? Like waiting for Christmas morning or your birthday or some other big event. But but yeah, maybe that's something that we can kind of help with as well, right? Like how do we get some word out in the short term about what's going to be happening over the coming months?
Yeah, we can definitely do that because I know Miles has other things to do besides social media. Let's put it that way, so we can help him. So my dog wants to have a saying apparently, but yeah, it's just he's got other things to do. I don't mind helping him out on social media and like, why not? It'll help us all in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the fun part about all, well, not the fun part, the powerful stuff about all of this is that, yeah, it's the community helping the community and reaching beyond, uh, beyond those sort of that circle to the, like we're saying, the bigger and bigger and bigger circles. Yeah. So we're super thrilled to be part of this and, super thrilled too to be on your podcast here today. It's been super fun
Thank you
to
for
share a
joining.
little bit about this.
Yeah, thank you. We haven't done one of these in forever. We were talking about getting back to it, so thank you for
Mhm.
helping us.
Been great. Yeah. Thank you.